What does it take to move from the halls of IIM Bangalore to leading education and skill development across India and beyond? On this episode of Manager's Mantra, we sit down with Narayanan Ramaswamy, National Head for Education and Skill Development Services at KPMG India, and decode a successful B-School to corporate transition, the skills Indian MBAs need to go global, and how to stay ahead in a rapidly changing AI-driven world. Whether you are an MBA student, aspirant, faculty, or a future consultant, this one is for you. Welcome, Mr. Ramaswamy, to Manager's Mantra. We are so excited to have you on this interview, this interaction today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Garima. Thanks for this opportunity. Delighted to be a part of this show.
Amazing. Now I'm going to start with my first question right away, which is, you are an MBA. You studied in IIM Bangalore. You graduated from there. I know it's been a while, but can you talk us through a little bit, how your transition from the B school to the corporate world went?
Lovely. Good question. And it kind of also sends me down the memory lane, as they say. The world was very different when I graduated. It was, just about the internet era was happening. And so we were all products of those who were the first few batches in a liberalized economy kind of stuff. But having said that, students are students. So when we were in B school, this is the late 90s, and we were all a bunch of young people who perhaps have achieved something, hence they got into one of the premium B schools. So we were full of confidence, and we wanted to crack the examinations, and we want to excel in whatever was given to them. And learning, of course, was there. I mean, there was tremendous learning. I was an engineer, and when I got into the B school, accounting was something that was bewildering, and it took time to learn, but we were learning a lot, and networking with the fellow students, which incidentally is one of the biggest assets. Till today, it's very useful. So it was all about you, yourself, me, myself, and what I can do, what I can excel in other things. Now, looking back 25 odd years into the journey into corporate world, oh boy. So the relevance part was not there. We didn't know what was relevant in all these learnings. Why were we learning to read a balance sheet? Why was this market research important? Of course, the professors tried their best. We also went into the market. We had our internships, we had our whatever, but still the relevance as to why are we doing this and what does it mean in the real world is a big learning. And it moved from being brilliant to taking ownership. It doesn't matter whether you are sharp, brilliant, and other stuff. These are all overrated attributes that we give to ourselves. But really, what matters is, are you taking ownership? If some responsibility is given to you, are you kind of garnering the best of the resources that you can? That makes a good manager, right? Are you making the best of what is given to you? In B school, you're with the idea that you're surrounded by bright guys. Your groups, all of them are really bright, and they all give you so much, as much as they take, and you kind of believe that the world is going to be like that, and it is not, right? And so when I got into the real world, I think apart from using what we have learned, this ability to take ownership, take the team along, get the best out of it. And more importantly, you started thinking ahead. In my profession, which is consulting, I've been in consulting all along. It also, you need to be one step ahead, at least one step ahead of your client, and you need to know what's happening. So whatever is available and making the best of available is simply not enough. You'll have to think of something that is not available as well. So these are things that corporate taught me, and over a period of time, I think the way you respond to a situation has been very different in the corporate world. Of course, every single day, every single conversation, fun and otherwise, that we had in the B school are important. Maybe you don't realize that when you're going through it, but I would think anybody who's going through B school today should kind of soak in every moment of what they are going through. You never know how it's going to be useful to you.
That is so true. That is some very useful advice that you've just shared. But now I want to come to your current role, present line of work that you do. So as a national leader in education and skill development, what critical skills do you think B school students lack that they lack these particular skills that can be probably included in their core curriculum?
Well, I wouldn't say lack. Maybe it's there in small doses. Maybe it's not given that kind of importance.
Right.
So, in my role as management consulting, I mean, I've been in management consulting all along, and management consulting itself has taken a lot of avatars. There's been changing quite a bit. But there are some fundamentals I believe has not changed. And I believe if they are part of the curriculum in the B schools that we advise, we kind of add that. So I can tell you with some conviction that these are things that help.
Okay.
First and the foremost is communication.
Mm.
A bit underrated when you are in B school. When I say communication, it's not about writing reports or making PowerPoint presentations. It's your ability to, respond to the situation, right? If you're asked to speak for 5 minutes, then are you ready to speak for 5 minutes? Then somebody says, don't speak, give me a short note. In which case, it's not a two-way communication. How do you write it? And they say, no, 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 send me a WhatsApp. Now, that's a different communication, right? How do you communicate? And how do you adapt to the situation, I believe, needs to be included in the curriculum. And I also think teaming, while there are a lot of initiatives in teaming, group study, especially IIMs do that very well. But I believe bringing the best out of the team could be given more importance. Like, how do you make sure that it's not all about you, it's all about your team succeeding? And how do you make, sometimes you may have to, downplay a little bit for the team to the collective success is going to be more important in the real world. How do you do that? If there are some coaching that is happening in B schools, that will be great. I also believe leveraging assets that you have. You get to know about this in a lot of training that happens after that. This is what you have, right? You just got one night to go. You got a weekend and you just got this computer, or you have an AI tool now, or you have this big network. How do you leverage the resources that you have and make the best of it? No, it's not about, again, what you learn, but how do you apply it to context? And if there are some means of that leveraging resources that can be included in the curriculum, that'll be great. Apart from that, I also believe two important things that we should include in the curriculum is one, a global approach and a global outlook. I believe most of the people who are going through B school here, at least one third of them are going to work in a global environment. They might be sitting in India and working for some, global work, or they might relocate and do. The whole world is aging and we are young and we are going to be the workforce for the globe. Why are we not learning the global outlook and how we behave? It includes culture, it includes language, it includes, situational and behavior and other things. Last but not the least is sustainability. In all these things, it's increasingly becoming important and almost critical that if you are a good manager, then you need to know how to be sustainable in whatever you do. In consulting, you're giving an advice. There are two advices. One advice kind of is reckless in terms of the usage of resource, and the other consulting advice says, how do you sustain over a period of time? Clearly, the second one is preferred. And I'm sure that's the case with other professions as well. So these are the few things that I would believe the B schools should look at seriously and include in their curriculum.
That is an amazing set of advice, I must say. I'm sure it will be very helpful, and if there are any faculty, watching this, I'm sure they would want to, inculcate all of them, if not a few. So, also coming to the fact that you lead a team working in education and skilling across geographies that includes India, SAARC, Middle East, and Africa. What are the nuances of skill development in these regions, and how do they differ from those in India? Are there any key points that we can take from them, probably?
Tell you the similarities first. In most of these places, including India, maybe we have ignored the relevance and importance of skill development, right? As there is more and more younger population in an economy, in a country, it is very important that you provide what is called as the competencies, the skilling that are required for industry, as against a formal education, which is perhaps more fine-tuned to deeper thinking, research, analysis, and that kind of stuff. So in many of these places, I think the formal skill development has not even happened, right? Like what? Each geography is different. In Middle East, for example, they were dependent on so much on expats. And they suddenly realized the local population has not been into skill development at all. And whatever they've been learning in their traditional education has absolutely no relevance to the kind of jobs that they are eventually getting into. Combined with the fact that the jobs are changing so rapidly, like imagine you are getting skill for something in the past today for what you need to do in future. All three are incongruent. They are not even matching. That's what we are going through, all of us. And India, as one of the largest working age populations, one of the largest, maybe along with China, Brazil, we have the largest working age population in the world. And we seem to open up to the fact, and there is frenzied activities happening in terms of identifying the sector that will give jobs, the job roles, the competencies. We came up with, like, what is called as defining job roles, and defining what does it mean to do, and all those things. There's a lot of activities that have started to happen in India. Many African countries, many of the Middle East countries are catching up with some of these things. But what is relevant or what is to be noted, we are all stuck in the past. The skill development needs to think ahead and say, if I'm going to get somebody, some kid, some youngster to train now, and 3 years from now, he or she is going to be hitting the job market, are we providing, equipping them with skills that are relevant T plus 3? Which unfortunately we are not doing. And worse, we are going back, and whatever happened 5 years, 10 years, we kind of continuing with that, which is not relevant even today. So the skill development needs to do a serious zero-based thinking. That's one. Second, which has started to happen a little bit in India, but miles to go, is corporates coming in and taking ownership on skill development. It is not the government's agenda to define what needs to be skilled. It is the corporate's agenda to come and say that this is the skilling I want, this is what I would like my youngsters to be equipped with, and hence I'll recruit them, right? I mean, the model in Germany, the model in Japan, and all have been, beaten to death. But what's relevant in them, what we are not doing is where the government has said, you corporate, you come in, you are mandated, you're forced, whatever. Like, you come in and you take ownership on that. That's not happening here. That's beginning to happen. Recently, there is a scheme for getting corporates to own up industrial training institutions and also good things happening here. But a lot more to happen, which is again not happening in some of these countries. So the industry coming and taking central stage in scaling is not happening. And third, I think government has to step in when it comes to encouraging youngsters and pulling them and funding them for the skilling. I mean, they should not be doing the skilling. They should not define what needs to be skilled, but more often than not, unlike university education, the learner is not able to fund for themselves or even fend for themselves. So they need guidance. And there is also a bit of a taboo in places like, are you getting into vocational education? Then maybe, you are not up to the mark. So government has a role to play in that level of making sure that society, there is an acceptability in the society, there is mobilization. They all come here and they are also funded for training. I would think that's the change that needs to happen. India has kind of started to happen. Many other countries are yet to start the journey.
That was an very, very unique angle on skill development, and it's actually new for me as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Any discussion, I think, cannot be complete without talking about AI. So I had to put in this question: what do you think is the future of consulting with AI coming in?
So, on a lighter note, I'm glad that you are saying there is a future for consulting with AI. Because there are many who say, oh, boss, AI has come. Where will consulting go? Like, I'll not hire consultants. Instead, I'll hire an AI. Right? And there is this generative AI that seems to churn any report that you want, can program anything that you want. So there is this notion that AI means no future for many jobs, right? And some of them believe consulting. My take is different on this. See, what happens, imagine that you have a super efficient researcher.
Okay.
Right? You have a super efficient analyst who can, earlier your analyst took 1 week to do something. Here is a super efficient analyst that says in 2 hours I'll do that, right? And here is analyst used to run around too many sources, identify what is right, what is not wrong, and all those things. So if you start thinking that AI is a good tool, right? A good resource for you. And you need to harness, you need to leverage that resource to get the best out of them. That is where consulting is headed. You get scared of AI, then it's wrong. Or you ignore AI, even worse. But if you take it head on, because that's reality, and say, like, for example, once upon a, I mean, go back in time. I mean, typewriters came, and if all the writers thought, "Oh, boss, we have lost it because some machine comes and does what I was doing," or a Word and PowerPoint comes, and these people who are, people who are actually writing these scripts, like they were writers. I don't even know if you remember, though. Maybe we're not born then, but that days are gone. And when the computers came in and computation came in, all the clerks and others thought, "Oh boy, my job is gone." But that's not how it happened. AI is similarly a tool, a super efficient tool. And the more and more we learn how to use the tool, we are successful. At the end of the day, we should realize the intelligence in AI is given by us. So if we are smart, we will leverage it. So, for example, higher order thinking, looking at what are the situational analysis that if certain things happen in a certain fashion, the human element of how things will happen, causal analysis, predicting what will happen and incorporating that in your advice in a consulting world that we have, simulation of what happens, all these things is better thought by us, executed, or leveraging AI, we can do it better. So I would think in all, AI is super efficient, but we need to change the way we provide value to our clients and look at AI as a super efficient resource for us.
That's so true. And I'm glad you used words like, Notion and calling AI a tool, because I think that says it all about, what role it's going to play in the future. That's amazing. Now I'm gonna come back to a little bit of skills and so in the next question, how have the skill requirements in the consulting industry evolved over the years, especially with digital transformation and AI becoming mainstream? How is KPMG aligning its talent development strategy to these changing demands?
So consulting has definitely changed quite significantly. Where earlier it used to be, I didn't have data, I didn't have information. I engaged consultants to get those information for me. That's when I started my consulting career. That was very important.
Right.
Imagine today in the internet world, will anybody hire a consultant for getting data? No, they have tons of it. In fact, they perhaps have much more than what consultants can think of. But where it has evolved is, how do I make meaning out of it? Right? From data to information to knowledge to insights to what is the kind of change that you want to make to actually being there making the change. So consulting has moved from an armchair advice to somebody who will co-create what is happening. What has not changed is, are you adding value? In whatever situation, are you going to the client side? Are you adding value? Is the question that has not changed. Now the client has changed and he also changed. And how do we do it in KPMG being an example, which we do big time, is how do you make sure that you explain this to your consultants? Digital technologies need to be learned. I cannot think of management consulting without digital technologies. But be it the, in fact, to be honest, when we recruit freshers, they come with what I call as native digital skills. It's more to the existing ones. How do you make sure that they are up to speed, right? And we have a number of courses, number of sessions where we kind of make it mandatory for our people to learn these digital technologies. More importantly, applying it to context. Where do you use a simulation tool? Where do you use a social media? Where do you use your generative AI, where you use your augmented reality, things like that. So those are important. And we also have changed in the sense earlier, most of our learning and development used to be internal, right? We all thought we are the big source of knowledge. I mean, we don't think of that like that anymore. Like we kind of grab it from anywhere. Many of our learning happens with external sources. And because things are changing so rapidly, I can't wait for KPMG or any other organization to change. I'll just grab it from anywhere and learn, which is what we are doing. We are getting knowledge from wherever and making sure that our colleagues get the best of what is happening there, get trained on that so that they are well equipped when they go and meet the client.
That's amazing. So basically, the main thing is to consistently keep learning and training and
Continuous learning. You said it, yeah. Continuous learning. It's not enough if you say, okay, I've done 1 week of learning for this year and that's it, and I'll do this only next year. Gone are those days.
yeah, that's amazing. And you spoke about external sources of knowledge and information. Now, what used to be an external source, that is EdTech, post-pandemic, it has rapidly transitioned from an alternative to a mainstream mode of learning. So, what opportunities does this shift open up for students, particularly in preparing them for the future workforce needs?
I think what EdTech has done is significant, and we don't realize that because we are going through the change. If you ask me, the constraints of location and duration is
Right.
just gone. Earlier, I need to go to a particular place. It could be a university, college, whatever, a computing center, whatever, like to learn.
Correct.
Doesn't happen. Now I'm like, I have this half an hour that I'm waiting in a railway station. I learn. And I'm waiting in a queue to get something. I learn. I'm moving in a car. Sometimes I learn, and we do it all the time. So the location, duration, that sense is gone. I can learn a course for 3 months and have a number of such three courses that I learn, stack it together, and I have something significant that I have learned. Was not possible earlier. EdTech made it happen. And for example, I want to learn this from such and such source, right? I know these were the origins for it. Not possible earlier. Either I had to travel all the way there or do good with the video that comes from there. Now I will flick a button and I can have somebody in that region explaining to me how that happens, the professor, whatever, and all those things. The simulations that can happen through digital technologies, edtech. So the world of possibilities are opened which didn't even exist before. But what is not there is your time and your inclination to make sure you kind of leveraged it. So I think there is a bit of holistic learning. Earlier, I used to learn in silos. Now I need to have holistic learning. EdTech has made it happen. So if I'm a physics student, I want to learn something on bioinformatics. It took ages for somebody to do that. But now with the edtechs, I can simply switch there, learn. There is no eligibility criteria. There is no waiting time. None of these things. If I have the inclination, I can do it. So I think that's possible. And the other big thing that is brought in is collaboration with people who you don't know. I mean, there are some good sorts of people on the other side who you don't even know. Earlier, it was very difficult, if at all possible, and edtech makes it easier. So I think overall, learning has gone to a completely different kind of level and pace with edtech, and it's up to us to harness and leverage that so that we get the best of it.
Definitely is a boon. And that brings me to my last question, which is, what would you advise or what advice do you have for students who want to join consulting in the future?
Okay, that's good. And in fact, I want more and more people to do that, and so hope they are listening. First one I want is I want them to be curious. There is nothing that you perhaps could learn that will help you through and through in your consulting career. It will at best prepare you for a consulting career. Stay curious. You need to learn all the time. So you need to learn to learn. So I think one of the things that you should do is how do you keep up the habit of learning from everywhere? Now, you read the newspaper that morning, you're interacting with someone, you responded to your boss, you're talking to your friend. All of that is learning. How do you make sure you're curious to learn? And the second thing I think, we should develop is how do you communicate, right? If there is only so much time, then you need to organize your thoughts, right? And if there is a longish report that you want to write, you need to expand what you have. And you're talking to somebody who's uninitiated in that, you need to explain from basics. You're talking to an expert, you need to be brief and precise, and you need to be incisive in what. So, how do you communicate? That's important. And the third, I think, especially for those who are serious about consulting, is all about attitude, right? You need to know that it is a long game. More often than not, you work with clients who perhaps are irrational or demanding to an extent where it is unreasonable. But how do you make sure that you are this, learned person who is able to think, okay, that's a part of their right, and I will not be pulled into that situation. I will remain outside. That's the key criteria of a consultant. You will not become a part of the problem. You will not get into the situation. You will remain outside. That is when you can give neutral advice because they are expecting people to do that.
That's amazing. I think this particular advice, applies to life as well. If you can stay detached from the problem, you can solve it better. Um, that is
I
some
know.
great.
I heard colleagues say that, their families say, you're always acting like a consultant. That happens. So maybe you're right. Some of these are life skills.
Yeah, no, they help maybe, maintain your mental health as well. So why not? That's amazing. We had some great advices from you, your journey, and thank you so much for sharing them with us. Thank you so much for coming on Manager's Mantra and making us a part of your journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Arima. Thank you so much. It's a lovely opportunity for me also to interact with you. And you've been such a great host, and also to others as a part of this. Wishing everybody, including you, all the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramaswamy leaves us with a simple mantra: own your work, adapt fast, and never stop learning. That's the path from campus to corporate success. BSmart viewers, feel free to share your thoughts with us at bsmart.edit at bsmail.in. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more such inspiring content. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.